Dr. Lisa Carter stared at the screen in front of her, watching the numbers change every few seconds. The energy readings were unlike anything she had ever seen before. They were coming from somewhere near Europa, one of Jupiter's moons. She had been studying space for 15 years, but this was completely new. "Captain Morrison, you need to see this," Lisa called out across the bridge of the USS Meridian. The research ship was not very big, but it was home to 37 people who spent their time looking for new things in space. Jake Morrison walked over to Lisa's station. He was a tall man with gray hair and kind eyes. He had been commanding spaceships for 20 years, but he had never seen his science officer look so excited and worried at the same time. "What do you have for me, Doc?" Jake asked, looking at the strange patterns on the screen. Lisa pointed to the readings. "These energy signatures don't match anything in our database. They're too organized to be natural, but they're too complex to be from any technology we know about. And they're getting stronger." Tony Martinez, the ship's security chief, joined them. He was a short, strong man who always seemed ready for trouble. "How strong are we talking about here?" he asked. Before Lisa could answer, the lights on the bridge flickered. Amy Brooks, who handled communications, looked up from her station with wide eyes. "Captain, I'm getting interference on all channels. Something big is affecting our systems." Jake felt a cold feeling in his stomach. In space, when things went wrong, they usually went very wrong very fast. "All stop," he ordered. "Full scan of the area." The crew worked quickly, but their instruments were acting strange. The energy readings were now so strong that some of their equipment was shutting down to protect itself. Lisa watched her screens with growing amazement and fear. "Captain," she said quietly, "I think we're about to meet someone new." The space around them began to change. What had been empty black space started to shimmer like water. The stars seemed to bend and twist. Then, slowly, something appeared. It was huge. The alien ship was at least 10 times bigger than the Meridian. It was made of what looked like crystal and metal mixed together, and it glowed with a soft blue light. Strange symbols moved across its surface like living things. "Holy ... Tony started to say, but stopped himself. Amy's hands shook as she tried to work her controls. "Captain, all our systems they're not responding properly. It's like something is talking to them, but not through our communication channels." Jake had trained for this moment his whole life, but now that it was happening, he felt very small. Red alert. "All hands to stations. Amy, try to send a standard first contact message." "I'm trying, sir, but our communications are ... Amy stopped talking and stared at her screen. "Captain, I'm getting a message, but it's not coming through our radio. It's coming through our computer systems directly." The message appeared on every screen on the bridge at the same time. The words were in perfect English. "Greetings, primitive ones. We are the Vexi. We come in peace to study your kind. Prepare for contact." Lisa felt her heart beating fast. This was it. Humanity's first contact with aliens. After all the years of wondering if we were alone, the answer was here. The alien ship moved closer without making any sound. As it did, the crew could see that it was even more beautiful and strange than they had first thought. Parts of it seemed to be alive, pulsing with energy and light. Then something happened that none of them expected. The air in front of the main screen began to glow, and 3 figures appeared as if they were made of light itself. The aliens were tall and thin, about 8 feet high. Their bodies seemed to be made of the same crystal material as their ship, but they moved like living things. Their faces were long and narrow, with large eyes that glowed with the same blue light as their ship. They had no hair, but strange patterns moved across their skin like tattoos that were alive. The one in the middle stepped forward. When it spoke, the words appeared in everyone's mind rather than coming through their ears. "I am Zephyr, speaker for the Vexi. We have traveled among the stars for many thousands of your years, studying the young races that struggle to understand the universe. You humans are ... interesting." Jake found his voice. "I'm Captain Jake Morrison of the Earthship Meridian. We welcome you in peace." The alien's large eyes seemed to study each person on the bridge. "Yes, we know of your Desire for peace. We have been watching your species for some time. You are different from most young races, more ... complex. Lisa stepped forward. She couldn't help herself. This was the greatest moment in human history. We're honored to meet you. We've dreamed of this day for so long. What can you tell us about the galaxy? Are there many other species out there? Zethvar's head tilted in what might have been amusement. Many species, yes. Most follow predictable patterns. They develop technology, explore their local area, and eventually learn to live in harmony with the universe. But you humans, you are unusual. Tony kept his hand near his weapon, but he knew it would be useless against beings this advanced. Unusual how? You think differently than most species. Your minds work in ways that are hard to understand. We would like to study one of you more closely. A simple scan of your consciousness. It is harmless and would help us understand your kind better. Jake felt every protective instinct he had wake up. What exactly does this scan involve? We would look into the mind of one of your people. See how you think, how you remember, how you dream. We have done this with thousands of species. It causes no harm and teaches us much. The bridge was quiet for a long moment. Lisa looked at the alien beings with wonder and excitement. This was a chance to learn about the universe, to make contact with a civilization that had seen the stars for thousands of years. I'll do it, she said. Lisa, no, Jake said quickly. We don't know what this involves. What if something goes wrong? But Lisa was already moving toward the aliens. Captain, this is why we're out here. To learn new things, to make contact, to represent humanity. If they wanted to hurt us, they could have done it already. Zethvar seemed pleased. The female scientist shows wisdom. The process is simple. We will connect our minds to hers for a short time. We will see her thoughts and memories, and she will see some of ours. Many species find it enlightening. Amy looked up from her station. Captain, I've been monitoring their ship. Their weapons are powered down, and they're not targeting us. They really do seem peaceful. Jake looked at his crew, then at the alien beings. Everything in him said this was dangerous, but Lisa was right. This was why they were out here. And if the aliens wanted to hurt them, there was nothing they could do to stop them anyway. All right, he said finally. But we monitor everything. If anything goes wrong, we stop immediately. Zethvar nodded. Of course. We will begin the consciousness scan now. Dr. Carter, please relax and open your mind to us. Lisa closed her eyes and tried to calm her racing heart. Around her, the bridge was silent except for the quiet hum of the ship's systems. She was about to become the first human to share her mind with an alien species. She had no idea that in a few minutes, those aliens would be screaming in terror. Lisa Carter stood very still as the three Vexi aliens moved closer to her. Their crystal-like bodies seemed to glow brighter as they prepared to enter her mind. She could feel her heart beating fast, but she tried to stay calm. This was the most important moment in human history. Do not fear, Zethvar said, his voice appearing in her thoughts like a gentle whisper. We have done this many times with many species. Your mind will not be harmed. The other two aliens who had not spoken before moved to stand on either side of Lisa, their large, glowing eyes fixed on her face. She could feel something strange happening in the air around her, like the feeling before a thunderstorm. Captain Morrison watched from his chair, his hands gripping the armrests tightly. Doctor, if you feel anything wrong, anything at all, you tell us immediately. Lisa nodded but kept her eyes on the aliens. I understand, Captain. I'm ready. Zethvar raised his long, thin hands toward Lisa's head. We will begin slowly. First, we will touch only the surface of your thoughts, the things you think about during your daily life. Then we will go deeper to understand how your species processes information. The moment the alien's hands came close to her head, Lisa felt a strange tingling sensation. It was not painful, but it was unlike anything she had ever experienced. It felt like someone was gently touching her thoughts from the inside. Fascinating, Zethvar said, and Lisa could hear surprise in his mental voice. Your mind is more active than we expected. Most young species have simple thought patterns, but yours moves in many directions at once. Lisa could feel the aliens moving through her recent memories. She saw flashes of her own experiences as if she was watching a movie. Her morning coffee, her excitement about the energy readings, her decision to volunteer for the scan. But she could also feel the aliens' reactions to what they were seeing. Curious, one of the other aliens said. This female thinks not just about her immediate survival, but about abstract concepts, knowledge for its own sake. This is unusual for a primitive species. Amy Brooks watched her instruments carefully. Captain, I'm reading strange energy patterns around Dr. Carter. Her brain activity is off the charts. Tony Martinez kept his eyes on the aliens. He did not trust them, even though they seemed peaceful. Doc, how are you feeling? Lisa could hear Tony's voice, but it seemed far away. Most of her attention was focused on the strange feeling of having other minds connected to hers. I'm fine, she said, though her voice sounded odd to her own ears. It's incredible. I can feel them thinking. The aliens moved deeper into her mind, past her recent memories and into her childhood. Lisa saw herself as a little girl, lying on the grass in her backyard, looking up at the stars. She remembered wondering if anyone else was out there, looking back at her. This memory is strong, Zethfer observed. She has wondered about other life forms since she was very young. This drive to explore and understand is powerful in her. Yes, agreed the second alien, but there is something else here. Something underneath these peaceful thoughts. Her mind has layers that we have not seen in other species. Lisa felt the aliens trying to go deeper, and suddenly she felt a strange resistance. It was as if part of her mind was trying to keep them out, not because she wanted to, but because something inside her was automatically protecting itself. What is this barrier? The third alien asked. Her conscious mind welcomes us, but something deeper is defending itself. Lisa could feel the confusion of the aliens as they encountered this unexpected resistance. In all their years of studying other species, they had never found minds that fought back without the conscious person wanting them to. It's all right, Lisa said, trying to help. I want you to see everything. I'm not trying to keep you out. We know, Zethfer replied. This is not your conscious mind resisting. This is something deeper, something that exists in all of your species, perhaps. A survival mechanism we have not encountered before. The aliens pushed gently against this mental barrier, and slowly, it began to give way. As it did, Lisa felt something strange happening. She was not just remembering her own experiences anymore. She was remembering things that had never happened to her personally. She saw images of other humans throughout history. Soldiers fighting in wars she had never been part of. Explorers crossing dangerous lands. Scientists working late into the night to solve problems that seemed impossible. People facing terrible situations and finding ways to survive. What? What is this? One of the aliens asked, and for the first time, Lisa heard fear in their mental voice. I don't know, Lisa sighed, but she was starting to understand. The aliens were not just reading her individual mind. They were accessing something much bigger. Something that connected all humans. The images kept coming. She saw cave paintings made by humans who lived thousands of years ago. She saw pyramids being built by people who had no modern tools. She saw ships crossing dangerous oceans, rockets flying to the moon, and countless other examples of humans doing things that should have been impossible. This is not normal, the second alien said, and Lisa could feel panic starting to grow. In their shared connection. Individual minds should not contain the experiences of entire species. What kind of beings are you? Captain Morrison stood up from his chair. The aliens were beginning to glow more brightly, and their movements were becoming more agitated. Doctor, what's happening? Lisa tried to answer, but she was too caught up in the flood of memories and images. She was seeing not just human history, but human nature itself. The way humans thought, the way they solved problems, the way they refused to give up even when everything seemed hopeless. They learn from failure, the third alien said, and his voice was filled with amazement and growing horror. When they are defeated, they do not simply accept it. They study what went wrong and become stronger. The aliens had expected to find simple thoughts and basic survival instincts. Instead, they were discovering something much more complex and frightening. They were seeing the accumulated wisdom and experience of a species that had survived on one of the most dangerous planets in the galaxy. "Look at this," Zethver said, and Lisa could feel him focusing on a particular memory. It was not her memory, but somehow it was inside her mind. It showed humans working together during a disaster, helping each other survive when everything around them was falling apart. "They do not just survive," the second alien observed. "They thrive in conditions that would destroy most other species, and they help each other do it." Lisa could feel the aliens going deeper into this collective human consciousness as she began to understand what they were really seeing. They were not just looking at her individual mind. They were looking at the accumulated experience of every human who had ever lived, fought, struggled, and survived. The memories were getting stronger and more intense. She saw warriors who fought against impossible odds. She saw mothers who protected their children no matter what the cost. She saw inventors who kept trying new things even after hundreds of failures. She saw people who laughed in the face of death and found hope in the darkest situations. "This is not normal evolution," the third alien said, and his fear was growing stronger. "These beings have been shaped by constant struggle. Their entire development has been about surviving things that should kill them." Amy looked up from her instruments with worry. "Captain, the energy readings are getting much stronger, and Dr. Carter's vital signs they're strange, not dangerous, but very unusual." Lisa could barely hear Amy's voice. She was too deep in the connection with the aliens now. She could feel their growing fear as they realized that humans were not like any other species they had ever encountered. They were seeing the mind of a species that had never known true peace, that had been forged in the fires of constant challenge and struggle, and they were beginning to understand that this was just the beginning of what made humans truly different. The three Vexi aliens pushed deeper into Lisa's mind, and what they found there made them freeze with shock. They had expected to reach the deepest parts of her individual consciousness, but instead they discovered something that should not have existed in any single being's mind. "This is impossible," Zethver said, his mental voice shaking. "We are not just seeing her memories anymore. We are seeing the memories of her entire species." Lisa could feel the aliens' confusion and growing fear, but she was caught up in the flood of human experiences flowing through her mind. She saw ancient hunters working together to bring down massive beasts. She saw early humans making tools from stones and bones, turning everything around them into weapons or useful objects. "They are tool makers," the second alien observed, but his voice carried a note of worry. "But not just simple tools. They make tools to make better tools. They make tools to kill, tools to build, tools to survive in any situation." The memories kept coming, faster now. Lisa saw humans in different time periods, all facing impossible challenges and finding ways to overcome them. She saw people building cities in harsh deserts, growing food in frozen lands, and creating art even in the middle of wars. "Look at this," the third alien said, focusing on a series of memories about human warfare. "They do not just fight for food or territory like other species. They fight for ideas, abstract concepts that exist only in their minds." Lisa saw armies of humans marching into battle, not just to survive, but to protect their families, their beliefs, their way of life. She saw soldiers like Danny Price, who had thrown himself on a grenade to save his friends. She saw nurses like Katie Walsh, who had run into burning buildings to help wounded people. "They sacrifice themselves for others," Zethver said, and Lisa could feel his amazement. "Not just for their offspring, but for complete strangers. They choose to die so others can live." The aliens had studied thousands of species across the galaxy, but they had never encountered anything like this. Most creatures fought only when they had to, and only for their own survival or the survival of their immediate family. But humans seemed to fight for much bigger reasons. "This is not normal behavior," the second alien said. Most species avoid conflict when possible. These beings seem to embrace it. Lisa saw more memories flowing through her mind. She saw humans during the great wars of the 20th century, working together to defeat enemies that threatened their entire way of life. She saw people who had lost everything but kept fighting anyway. She saw humans who had been captured and tortured but refused to give up information that would harm their friends. They do not break, the third alien observed with growing horror. Other species, when faced with certain death, will surrender or flee. These beings seem to become more dangerous when they are desperate. The aliens were beginning to understand something terrible about humanity. They were seeing that humans had not just survived on their dangerous planet, they had thrived because of the danger. Every challenge had made them stronger, smarter, more creative in their solutions. Look at their problem-solving methods, Zethver said, and Lisa could feel his fear growing. They do not just find one solution to a problem. They find multiple solutions. They plan for things to go wrong. Lisa saw human engineers designing systems with backup plans and backup plans for the backup plans. She saw military strategists who prepared for every possible outcome of a battle. She saw scientists who tested their theories in every way they could think of, trying to prove themselves wrong before others could. They think like predators, the second alien said, and his mental voice was filled with terror. Not just simple predators who hunt for food, but intelligent predators who plan and coordinate and adapt. The memory showed humans hunting in groups, using complex strategies to capture prey much larger and stronger than themselves. But more frightening to the aliens was seeing how humans had turned these same hunting skills towards solving other problems. They apply warfare thinking to everything, the third alien observed. Building cities, growing food, exploring space, even their entertainment. Everything is approached like a battle to be won. Lisa saw human sports where teams of people competed with the same intensity as warriors in battle. She saw human businesses, where companies fought for customers and market share with strategies that would have impressed ancient generals. She saw human scientists who attacked unsolved problems like armies attacking fortified positions. This is what we feared, Zethver said, and now Lisa could feel real panic in his thoughts. We have found a species that has turned struggle into strength. They do not just survive challenges, they seek them out. The aliens were seeing memories of human explorers who had deliberately gone to the most dangerous places on Earth just to see what was there. They saw humans who had climbed the highest mountains, crossed the deepest oceans, and explored the coldest lands, not because they had to, but because they wanted to. They find joy in overcoming impossible odds, the second alien said. This is not normal. Most species avoid danger and seek comfort. These beings seem to become bored without challenges. Lisa felt the aliens probing deeper, trying to understand the source of this strange human behavior. What they found made them even more frightened. They discovered that human brains were wired differently than other species. Humans, actually, produced chemicals that made them feel good when they solved difficult problems or overcame dangerous situations. They are addicted to challenge, the third alien said. Their brains reward them for seeking out difficult situations. They have evolved to enjoy the very things that would terrify other species. The memories continued to flow. Lisa saw humans throughout history who had faced extinction-level events and had somehow found ways to survive. She saw people who had lived through plagues, natural disasters, and wars that had destroyed entire civilizations, yet they had rebuilt and become stronger. Look at this pattern, Zethver said, and Lisa could feel him focusing on the way humans responded to defeat. When they fail, they do not just try again. They analyze what went wrong, they learn from it, and they come back with better strategies. The aliens saw human armies that had been defeated in battle, only to return years later with new tactics and better weapons. They saw human scientists whose experiments had failed hundreds of times, but who had used each failure to learn something new. They saw human explorers who had been forced to turn back from their goals, but who had used the experience to plan better expeditions. They are learning machines, the second alien said. Every failure makes them more dangerous. Every defeat teaches them something new. The most terrifying realization was yet to come. The aliens began to understand that what they were seeing was not just human history, but human potential. They were seeing a species that had barely begun to explore the galaxy, but which had already shown the ability to turn any situation to their advantage. They are still young, the third alien said, and his fear was now overwhelming. They have not yet reached their full potential. If they continued to develop at this rate, Lisa could feel the aliens trying to pull back from her mind, but something was preventing them. It was as if her consciousness was holding on to them, showing them more and more of what humanity really was. They saw humans who had faced impossible situations and had found ways to not just survive, but to thrive. "We cannot withdraw," Zethver said, and for the first time, Lisa heard true terror in his mental voice. "Her mind is not letting us go. It is forcing us to see everything." The aliens were beginning to realize that they had made a terrible mistake. They had expected to find the simple thoughts of a primitive species, but instead they had discovered something that challenged everything they thought they knew about life in the galaxy. They were seeing the mind of a species that had never learned to give up, that had turned every weakness into a strength, and that found hope in the darkest situations. They were seeing humanity's true nature, and it scared them more than anything they had ever encountered. The three Vexi aliens found themselves pulled deeper into Lisa's consciousness, and what they discovered there broke something inside their minds. They were no longer just seeing human memories or human history. They were experiencing what it felt like to be human, and the sensation was driving them toward madness. "We must escape," Zethver said, but his mental voice was weak and shaking. "This is too much. We cannot process what we are seeing," but Lisa's mind held them like a trap. Not because she wanted to hurt them, but because her human consciousness was doing what human consciousness always did when threatened. It was showing them everything, overwhelming them with the full weight of human experience. "I can see their evolution," the second alien said, his thoughts filled with horror. They came from a world where everything tried to kill them. The weather, the animals, the diseases, even the plants were dangerous. And instead of becoming weak and afraid, they became stronger. Lisa felt the aliens experiencing her planet through human eyes. They saw Earth not as a beautiful blue world, but as a death trap where everything was trying to survive in impossible conditions. They saw volcanoes that could destroy entire continents, storms that could level cities, and ice ages that had forced humans to adapt or die. Their planet made them into weapons, the third alien said, and his fear was so strong that Lisa could feel it affecting her own emotions. Every generation that survived was stronger than the last. They have been refined by millions of years of constant danger. The aliens were beginning to understand that Dr. Lisa Carter, this peaceful scientist who had volunteered to help them, carried within her mind a complete survival knowledge of the most dangerous species they had ever encountered. She was not just an individual human. She was a repository of every trick, every strategy, every lesson learned by humans throughout their entire history. "Look at how they think about problems," Zethver said, and Lisa could feel him focusing on her approach to scientific research. "She does not just try to understand something. She tries to understand how it could be used, how it could be improved, how it could be weaponized." The aliens saw Lisa's memories of studying alien technology, but they also saw how her mind automatically analyzed everything for potential military applications. Not because she was a warrior, but because thinking like a warrior was built into every human brain. "They cannot help themselves," the second alien observed. "Even their most peaceful individuals think like generals planning for war. They see resources, advantages, weaknesses, and opportunities in everything." Lisa felt the aliens experiencing her memories of childhood games, and they were horrified to discover that even human children played games that taught them strategy, competition, and how to overcome obstacles. They saw kids playing hide and seek, learning to hunt and avoid being hunted. They saw children building forts and having mock battles, practicing for conflicts they might face as adults. Their young train for warfare through play, the third alien said. They enjoy it. They compete with each other to become better at it. This is not normal development. The aliens were discovering that humans did not just learn to fight when they had to. They practiced fighting constantly, even when there was no immediate threat. They created games, sports, and competitions that kept their skills sharp even during peaceful times. They have turned conflict into entertainment, Zethver said, and Lisa could feel his mind struggling to understand this concept. They watch. Other humans compete and struggle because they find it enjoyable. They seek out stories about conflict and challenge because it makes them feel good. Lisa saw her own memories of watching movies and reading books, but through the alien's perception, she realized how strange this must seem to other species. Humans actively chose to experience stories about danger, conflict, and struggle during their leisure time. They paid money to watch other humans face impossible odds and overcome them. Look at this, the second alien said, focusing on Lisa's memories of human sports. They have created artificial conflicts with arbitrary rules and they train for years to excel at them. They push their bodies to the limits of endurance and beyond, not for survival, but for the joy of competition. The aliens were seeing human athletes who had dedicated their entire lives to running faster, jumping higher, or throwing objects further than other humans. They saw people who had broken their bones, torn their muscles, and pushed through pain. That would incapacitate most other species, all for the chance to prove they were better than their fellow humans. They compete even when cooperation would be more efficient, the third alien observed. They seem to need conflict to function properly. Without challenges to overcome, they create their own. This was when the true horror hit the Vexi. They realized that humans were not just good at surviving challenges, they were addicted to them. A human without problems to solve would create problems just to have something to work on. A human without enemies to fight would compete with friends. A human without mountains to climb would build mountains just to climb them. They are incomplete without struggle, Zethver said, and his mental voice was filled with a deep, primal fear. Most species seek peace and comfort. These beings seem to require conflict to feel alive. Lisa felt the aliens accessing her deepest memories, the ones she was not even consciously aware of. They were seeing the genetic programming that had been built into every human over millions of years of evolution. They were seeing the instincts that made humans what they were. They have the patience of ambush predators, the second alien said. They can wait for the right moment, plan for years, and strike with devastating precision. But they also have the persistence of pack hunters. They will pursue a goal until they achieve it or die trying. The aliens were experiencing human persistence through Lisa's memories of her own education. They saw how she had spent years learning complex subjects, failing tests, trying again, and slowly building her knowledge. They saw how she had chosen to become a scientist, not because it was easy, but because it was difficult and would require her to constantly learn new things. They enjoy solving puzzles, the third alien said. But for them, everything is a puzzle. Their relationships, their work, their understanding of the universe, they approach everything like a problem to be solved. This was when the aliens began to understand the most terrifying thing about humans. They were seeing a species that viewed the entire universe as a challenge to be overcome. Humans did not just want to survive in space, they wanted to master it. They did not just want to understand other species, they wanted to figure out how to interact with them, trade with them, learn from them, and if necessary, defeat them. They are not explorers, Zethver said, and his fear was now so strong that it was affecting the physical world around them. They are conquerors, they explore. Not to understand, but to claim? They learn not to appreciate, but to control. Lisa could feel the aliens' terror as they realized that humans would not be content to just find their place in the galactic community. Humans would want to understand how the galaxy worked, how the other species thought, and how the whole system could be improved. They would want to solve the problems of other species, whether those species wanted help or not. "We have made a terrible mistake," the second alien said. We thought we were studying a primitive species that we could guide and control. Instead, we have found a species that will study us, learn from us, and eventually surpass us." The aliens began to scream, not with their voices, but with their minds. The sound was a psychic wail that echoed through their ship and into the minds of other Vexi. It was the sound of a species that had just realized they had awakened something that should have been left sleeping. And Lisa Carter, peaceful scientist and representative of humanity, felt their terror and finally began to understand what she really was. The psychic screaming of the three Vexi aliens echoed through space like a wave of pure terror. Their minds, connected to Lisa's consciousness, were being overwhelmed by the full weight of human experience and potential. The sound was not just noise, it was the mental breakdown of beings who had thought they understood the universe. Captain Morrison jumped from his chair as every screen on the bridge began flashing warning lights. "Amy, what's happening to their ship?" Amy Brooks looked at her instruments with wide eyes. "Captain, their vessel is losing power. Multiple system failures across their entire ship. And the energy readings ... they're off the charts." The alien ship, which had seemed so stable and powerful just minutes before, was now flickering like a dying light bulb. Parts of its crystal surface were cracking, and the beautiful blue glow that had surrounded it was becoming wild and chaotic. Tony Martinez kept his weapon ready, though he knew it would be useless. "Doc, can you hear me? What's happening over there?" Lisa Carter stood frozen in the middle of the bridge, her eyes closed, her body trembling. She could feel the alien's terror as if it was her own, but she could also feel something else. She was beginning to understand what the aliens had seen in her mind, and it was changing her forever. "They're trapped," she said in a voice that sounded strange and distant. "They went too deep into human consciousness, and now they can't get out. They're seeing everything we are, everything we've ever been, and everything we could become." Zethvar's mental voice was weak and broken. "We cannot escape. Your mind ... it shows us truth we cannot accept. We have studied thousands of species across the galaxy, but none like yours. None so dangerous." The second alien was no longer coherent. His thoughts were a jumbled mess of terror and confusion. "Death world ... death world beings, they learn from pain. They grow stronger from failure ... impossible ... impossible." Lisa could feel the aliens experiencing every human war, every human tragedy, every human triumph. They were seeing how humans had faced extinction events and had not just survived, but had become stronger. They were seeing how humans turned every defeat into a lesson, every loss into motivation, every impossible situation into an opportunity. "They're seeing our future," Lisa said to her crewmates. "They're seeing what we'll become when we reach the stars." Captain Morrison moved closer to Lisa, worried about her condition. "What do you mean? What future?" Lisa opened her eyes, and for a moment they glowed with the same blue light as the aliens. She had been changed by the connection, given access to knowledge and perspectives that no human had ever possessed before. "They're seeing us spreading across the galaxy," she said. "Not as conquerors or destroyers, but as something worse from their perspective. They're seeing us as problem solvers. Humans who will look at every species, every world, every system, and ask, how can this be improved?" The third alien managed one last coherent thought. "They will not destroy the galaxy ... I will fix it. They will solve problems we never knew existed. They will make everything ... better, and we will no longer be needed." This was the source of the aliens' terror. They were not afraid that humans would destroy other species. They were afraid that humans would help them. They were seeing a future where humanity became the galaxy's doctors, teachers, and problem solvers, whether other species wanted help or not. "We have to warn the others," Zethvar said, his mental voice barely a whisper. "The Galactic Council must know these beings cannot be allowed to develop interstellar travel. They must be contained or—" But the alien could not finish the thought. The connection to Lisa's mind was showing him that containment was impossible. Humans had broken free from every limitation ever placed on them. They had escaped from caves, crossed oceans, flown through the sky, and reached their moon. They would not be stopped by alien interference. Amy looked up from her station with alarm. "Captain, their ship is moving." "They're trying to leave." The alien vessel was indeed pulling away from the meridian, but its movements were erratic and desperate. Systems were failing all across the ship as the crew struggled to deal with the psychic shock that their scouts had transmitted to them. "Let me go," Lisa said suddenly. "I need to break the connection before I damage them permanently." But it was too late for that. The mental link between Lisa and the aliens had been too deep, too complete. The Vexi had not just read her mind. They had experienced being human. And that experience was something their minds were not equipped to handle. We cannot process this information," Zethver said. "Your species thinks in ways that are alien to us. You find hope where we see only despair. You find opportunity. Where we see only danger, you find joy in struggle itself." Lisa felt the aliens finally managing to pull back from her consciousness, but the damage was done. They had seen too much, understood too much about what humanity really was. "Remember us?" the second alien said, his thoughts clearer now, but filled with a deep sadness. "When your species reaches the stars, remember that we tried to understand you. We meant no harm." "I'll remember," Lisa promised. The connection finally broke, and Lisa collapsed to her knees. The absence of the alien minds in her consciousness left her feeling strangely empty, but also more aware of her own humanity than she had ever been before. The alien ship continued to retreat, but not before sending one final message that appeared on every screen on the bridge. "Warning: Deathworld species discovered in Sol System. Extreme caution advised. Recommend monitoring but no direct contact." These beings must not be underestimated. Captain Morrison helped Lisa to her feet. "Duha. Are you all right? What did they show you?" Lisa looked around at her crewmates, seeing them with new eyes. She could see the strength in Tony's protective stance, the curiosity in Amy's expression, the leadership in Jake's concern for his crew. She could see the human spirit that had so terrified the aliens. "They showed me us," she said. "They showed me what we look like to the rest of the galaxy. We're not just another species, Jake. We're something new. Something that's never existed before." Tony frowned. "What do you mean?" Lisa walked to the main screen and looked out at the stars. Most species in the galaxy evolved on safe worlds. They developed intelligence to avoid conflict, to find comfort and security. But we evolved on Earth, where everything was trying to kill us. We developed intelligence to fight back, to overcome, to never give up. Amy was beginning to understand. "So we think differently than other species." "More than that," Lisa said. "We are different. The aliens have been traveling the galaxy for thousands of years, studying species, helping them develop. But they've never found anyone like us. They've never found a species that looks at impossible problems and sees puzzles to be solved." Captain Morrison considered this. "And that scares them." Lisa nodded. "It terrifies them. They're seeing a future where humans spread across the galaxy not as conquerors but as helpers, where we look at every struggling species and say, we can fix this, where we solve problems that other species have accepted as unsolvable." The alien ship was now just a distant point of light, fleeing toward the outer system. But Lisa knew they would not forget what they had learned here. The word would spread across the galaxy that humanity was coming, and that nothing would ever be the same. "What happens now?" Tony asked. Lisa smiled, and for the first time since the connection had ended, she felt truly human again. "Now we go home. We prepare our people for what's coming. And we get ready to show the galaxy what humans can really do." As the meridian turned toward Earth, Lisa looked out at the stars and knew that humanity's greatest adventure was just beginning. The aliens had tried to read her mind and had discovered something that would change the galaxy forever. They had discovered that humans were not just another species trying to survive in space. They had discovered that humans were the universe's solution to problems it did not even know it had.